The corporate boardroom felt suffocating. I'm Alina Rodriguez, 30 years old, and my family, pillars of the medical establishment, deemed my cybersecurity firm irrelevant. They boasted of their impenetrable networks, oblivious to my digital watch. Tonight's dismissal of my expertise was abruptly interrupted by an emergency notification on my encrypted phone. This is the story of how my frivolous hobby became their only salvation. What happens when the very people who dismiss your path become dependent on your insignificant skills? Stay tuned to see how the unseen power of expertise can shift the scales. But first, if this resonates, hit that like button and subscribe to join me on this journey of unexpected vindication. The polished mahogany table reflected the sterile glow of the overhead lights, mirroring the cold formality of the room. I sat at the very end, a deliberate placement by my father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, a man whose presence filled any space he occupied, much like his reputation filled the gleaming, modern halls of the Rodriguez Healthcare Group. He presided at the head of the table, his silver hair impeccably combed, his tailored suit exuding an air of unassailable authority. Flanking him were my older brother, Dr. Javier Rodriguez, a brilliant neurosurgeon with an equally brilliant, albeit slightly more rigid mind, and my sister, Dr. Sofia Rodriguez, a sharp-witted chief of staff known for her ruthless efficiency and sharp business acumen. They were the golden trio, the inheritors of a medical dynasty, each a living testament to the family's unwavering commitment to conventional success, to the venerable, unquestioned path of medicine. And then there was me, Alina, the black sheep, the anomaly, the one who chose to dance to the beat of a different, more digital drum. I was 30, and while they navigated complex surgeries, oversaw multi-million-dollar hospital contracts, and chaired prestigious medical boards, I navigated lines of code, digital firewalls, and the intricate, ever-shifting landscape of cyber threats. I was the CEO of Sentinel AI, a cybersecurity firm that specialized in predictive threat intelligence, a company that had quietly, meticulously, and against all family expectations, carved out a significant niche in a critical, burgeoning industry. To them, my work was still a glorified hobby, a quaint deviation from the esteemed path of medicine, a bewildering choice from the child who once showed so much promise in the sciences. They never quite understood what I did, and perhaps, more accurately, they never really tried. Tonight was the quarterly board meeting, usually a grueling performance review of my family's latest achievements, a ritualistic affirmation of their established dominance. My presence here was more an obligation than a contribution, a dutiful daughter filling an empty seat, quietly observing their triumphs from the periphery. The air was thick with the scent of expensive coffee, stale papers, and unspoken judgment. My father, in his characteristic booming voice, was detailing the group's expansion plans, his voice resonating with pride. He emphasized their recent, substantial investment in a cutting-edge electronic health records (EHR) system, a sleek, new digital platform designed to streamline patient care and data management across their entire network of hospitals and clinics. Our data infrastructure is robust, impenetrable, he declared, his voice rising with conviction, his gaze sweeping across the room. It momentarily lingered on me, a brief, dismissive flicker in his eyes, as if to underscore that even I, with my unconventional interests, would surely grasp the sheer invulnerability of their systems. We've invested heavily in state-of-the-art encryption and layered defenses. Patient data security is paramount, and we're proud to say our systems are fortress-like, built to withstand any digital assault. Julian, ever the loyal firstborn, nodded sagely, his perfect surgeon's posture unwavering. Indeed, Dad, we've ensured that our digital perimeter is as secure as our physical hospitals. Our IT team assures us we're ahead of the curve. Sophia, sharp and decisive, chimed in with her customary efficiency. Any concerns about data breaches are simply unfounded. Given our proactive measures and the expertise of our internal cybersecurity team, each word was a subtle jab, an unspoken but powerful reaffirmation of their collective dismissal of my chosen field. A gentle but persistent reminder that my cybersecurity expertise was, in their world, utterly irrelevant, perhaps even a quaint little side interest compared to the gravitas of saving lives. I found myself clenching my jaw, a familiar ache behind my temples. For years, I had tried to explain the nuances of modern digital threats, the ever evolving landscape of cyber warfare, the critical importance of a proactive, adaptive security posture that went far beyond mere encryption and outdated firewalls. But their minds, so finely tuned to the complexities of human anatomy, pharmaceutical breakthroughs, and intricate surgical procedures, remained stubbornly closed to the invisible battlegrounds of the internet. They saw my work as abstract, theoretical, perhaps even a touch paranoid. To them, the real world was tangible, corporeal, something you could touch, cut, and heal. My own company, Sentinel AI, had quietly grown from a passion project born out of frustration and a deep seated fascination with algorithms into a formidable entity. We were lauded by industry experts for our innovative approach to predictive threat detection. We used advanced machine learning algorithms to identify vulnerabilities before they were exploited, to see the unseen cracks in digital fortresses, to predict the next wave of attacks before they even crested the horizon. My clients included major financial institutions, critical infrastructure providers, and sensitive government agencies, organizations that understood, perhaps brutally so, the catastrophic consequences of a data breach. Yet within the gilded confines of this family boardroom, I was still the child who had chosen to play with computers instead of scalpels, the med school dropout who pursued a niche. The condescension wasn't overt. It was woven into their very expressions, the slight tilt of their heads when I spoke of algorithms, the polite but unlistening smiles that accompanied my attempts to explain the gravity of digital threats. When I had once tried to suggest a comprehensive risk assessment of their new EHR system during its planning phase, my father had waved his hand dismissively. Ilara, dear, our IT department has it well in hand. We're a medical institution, not some tech startup that needs constant vigilance against hackers. Our focus is on patient care, not digital boogeymen. The irony burned, a hot, bitter taste in my mouth. I was a tech startup, and my hobby was about to collide with their impenetrable reality in a way none of them could ever anticipate. I glanced down at my wrist, my custom built digital watch, a discrete piece of tech that was connected directly to Sentinel AI's core monitoring systems, constantly scanning for anomalies, for the whispers of digital disturbances across a vast network of clients. Suddenly, a subtle vibration, followed by a silent, urgent notification, pulsed across its minimalist display. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a routine alert, not a false positive, nor a minor system hiccup. This was different. This was a code red. My gaze remained fixed on the small, unassuming screen of my watch, a tiny beacon of escalating urgency in the otherwise sterile environment of the boardroom. The vibration had been almost imperceptible, a mere tremor against my skin, but the message that pulsed silently on the display was anything but minor. A series of red flags, usually reserved for critical system failures or direct, confirmed attacks, scrolled rapidly. It was an alarm bell, muted for my eyes only, screaming of a fundamental breach. My heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs, echoing the urgency of the alert. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to maintain a composed facade, even as a cold dread began to coil in my stomach. My father, utterly oblivious to the digital drama unfolding on my wrist, was now projecting complex financial charts onto the screen, detailing projected growth and revenue streams for the next fiscal year. As you can see, he declared, tapping a laser pointer against a soaring green bar, Rodriguez Healthcare Group is poised for unprecedented expansion. Our patient base is growing exponentially. Our technology investments, particularly Project Nightingale, are paying off handsomely, and our security protocols remain uncompromised, allowing us to focus solely on what matters: delivering world-class medical care. He paused, looking around the table, seemingly inviting affirmation. Julian and Sophia offered their customary nods of agreement, their expressions radiating confidence in the family enterprise, in the carefully constructed edifice of their success. The details flickering on my watch, however, told a profoundly different story. The alert specified an advanced persistent threat, APT, A sophisticated, long-term infiltration, not a simple, opportunistic hack or a random brute force attack. It targeted a critical, previously unknown vulnerability within the specific EHR system my father had just lauded as cutting edge. The level of access described was terrifying in its scope. Administrative privileges, deep-level data exfiltration, and a subtle but pervasive manipulation of patient records that could go unnoticed for months. This wasn't a minor glitch. This was a digital catastrophe in the making, meticulously orchestrated. My mind raced, processing the immediate and long-term implications. Patient privacy violations on a staggering scale, potential legal nightmares that could span years and drain resources, a complete erosion of public trust, and unimaginable financial repercussions from class action lawsuits and regulatory fines. The irony of the situation was a bitter taste in my mouth. For years, I had advocated for rigorous, proactive cybersecurity measures for investments in the very kind of intelligence Sentinel AI provided. My warnings had been dismissed as alarmist, my expertise relegated to the realm of a mere hobbyist whose concerns were secondary to the grandeur of medical practice. And now, the fortress they had so proudly proclaimed impenetrable was, in fact, crumbling from within, precisely in the areas I had cautioned them about, in the very digital realm they so stubbornly refused to acknowledge. I forced myself to breathe deeply, attempting to calm the rising panic and maintain a semblance of control. My fingers instinctively moved to my earpiece, a discrete communication device linked directly to Sentinel AI's central monitoring station, where my lead analyst, Chloe, operated. She was undoubtedly seeing the same critical alerts, if not more granular data streams. Before I could even initiate a whispered command, Chloe's voice, a calm but urgent whisper, cut through the earpiece. Elena, we have a confirmed code red. Source IP confirms active infiltration within the Rodriguez Healthcare Group network. It's Project Nightingale, high-level data exfiltration detected. Looks like comprehensive patient data, including sensitive medical histories, personally identifiable information, and potentially financial billing records, is being siphoned off. We've also identified a series of sophisticated backdoors left for future, persistent access. This is big, Elena, very big. My blood ran colder. Chloe was usually unflappable, a rock of analytical calm. Her voice betraying this level of urgency meant the situation was far more dire than even the initial alerts suggested. The backdoors were particularly insidious, a hidden pathway for the attackers to return at will, indicating a long-term, strategic compromise rather than a quick grab. This wasn't a smash and grab, it was a hostile occupation. My father, still basking in the glow of his financial projections and the board's nods of approval, was now discussing the upcoming annual Rodriguez Healthcare Group Charity Gala, an event meant to further solidify the family's image as philanthropists and unyielding pillars of the community, cementing their reputation for excellence and unwavering stability. It's imperative, he stated, adjusting his glasses, that our image of unwavering stability and forward-thinking leadership remains untarnished. The gala will be a testament to our enduring commitment to trust. He looked directly at me then, a condescending smile playing on his lips, a familiar glint of amusement in his eyes. Even Alina, with her unconventional pursuits, understands the importance of reputation in our industry, darling. Julian and Sophia chuckled politely, their gazes briefly flickering to me, a shared understanding of my perceived insignificance, a quiet acknowledgement of my place on the periphery of their grand medical stage. My hands, hidden beneath the polished mahogany table, clenched into tight fists, my nails digging into my palms. My father's words, intended to diminish and reassure, now felt like a cruel cosmic joke, a bitter prophecy about to unfold. The very reputation he sought to protect, the unwavering stability and forward-thinking leadership he so proudly proclaimed, was now teetering on the precipice of a digital abyss, an abyss that only my unconventional pursuits could potentially prevent from swallowing them whole. The urgent notification on my watch continued to pulse, a silent, relentless reminder that their carefully constructed world was about to shatter, and I, the dismissed hobbyist, the unconventional one, held the uncomfortable truth that would either save or destroy them. The board meeting continued its mundane cadence, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface, a storm that was now seconds away from breaking, its digital lightning poised to strike. The polite murmurs of the board meeting dissolved into a sudden, shocked silence as I rose abruptly from my seat. The sharp scrape of my chair against the polished floor seemed to echo in the cavernous room, drawing all eyes to me, their expressions a mix of confusion and irritation at my blatant disruption. My father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, mid sentence, his hand still gesturing towards a projected graph of optimistic revenue, paused, his brow furrowed in irritation, his eyes narrowing slightly in disapproval. Alina, darling, he began, a condescending tone lacing his voice, the familiar patronizing warmth that always felt like a velvet glove around a fist. Is there an issue? We're discussing critical hospital infrastructure, not your latest app update, I hope. We are in the middle of a very important fiscal review. Julian and Sophia exchanged impatient glances, clearly annoyed by my interruption, their postures stiffening. Their expressions mirrored a collective disdain for anything that deviated from their carefully orchestrated agenda, a shared belief that I was once again about to make an unnecessary spectacle of myself. But I ignored them, my gaze fixed squarely on my father, my expression unwavering, a quiet resolve hardening my features. The urgency in Chloe's voice, amplified by the silent screams of my watch, propelled me forward with an uncharacteristic boldness. I knew this was my moment, a moment born of crisis, but a moment nonetheless to finally be seen, to be heard, not as a peripheral family member, but as a crucial, undeniable force. Actually, Papa, I stated, using the familiar, familial term that still felt like a shard of glass in my mouth given the circumstances, my voice cutting through the lingering tension, surprisingly calm and steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. It concerns precisely your critical hospital infrastructure, and I assure you it cannot wait. This isn't an app update, it's a catastrophic security failure. The collective frowns deepened. My father's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching in his temple. His initial irritation was rapidly giving way to a mixture of confusion and a nascent, unwelcome concern. What in the world are you talking about, Alina? Are you feeling quite well? He demanded, his tone now bordering on outright annoyance, perhaps even a premonition of anger. Julian, equally furious at the disruption, leaned forward, his hands braced on the table, his knuckles white. This is unconscionable, Alina, to use a family board meeting of all places for some theatrical display. You think this makes you look good? This is unprofessional and disrespectful. Sophia, ever the pragmatist, was more direct, though her voice, for the first time, held a detectable tremor. How could you possibly know anything of substance about our secure networks? Why didn't you warn us properly, through official channels? Is your little firm even capable of handling something like this? The accusations rained down on me, each word a testament to their deep-seated inability to comprehend my world, to acknowledge my expertise, to even imagine that their carefully constructed digital fortress could fall. They saw malice where there was only professional duty, a trick where there was only objective, terrifying data. There's no charade, Papa, and absolutely no sabotage, I replied, my voice steady, my gaze unwavering as I met each of their furious eyes, allowing the full weight of the truth to settle upon them. This is a confirmed critical cyber attack, and I knew it because Sentinel AI's systems detected it. My firm specializes in this, remember? The frivolous hobby you all mocked, the unconventional pursuit you dismissed, this is what it does. We detected the initial intrusion 6 weeks ago, precisely when your new EHR system, Project Nightingale, went live. We've been monitoring the escalating malicious activity since then, trying to pinpoint the specific vulnerabilities within its architecture. I paused, letting the full weight of my words sink in, watching their expressions shift from anger to a chilling disbelief. And as for why I didn't warn you properly, as Sophia put it, I tried, repeatedly. I offered to conduct a comprehensive security audit of your new system when it was being implemented, even before it went live. I sent detailed proposals outlining the critical need for advanced threat intelligence and real-time monitoring, exactly what Sentinel AI provides. Each time I was dismissed. Do these phrases sound familiar, Papa? Our IT department has it handled. We're a medical institution, not some tech startup. Alina, dear, you worry too much. You're always seeing problems where there are none. Do those phrases echo in your ears now? My mother, Isabel, who had remained silent until now, her face pale, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, finally spoke, her voice laced with a tremor of genuine fear. But how, Alina? How did your company get this information? Are you hacking us? Is that what this is? Are you attacking your own family? The absurdity of the question was almost laughable, a desperate attempt to grasp at any explanation other than the terrifying reality. But the fear in her eyes was real, a raw, primal fear that cut through my composure. No, Mama, I'm not hacking you, I patiently explained, though a part of me wanted to scream at their blissful ignorance. Sentinel AI's core business involves passively monitoring vast swathes of the internet for threat indicators, scanning for known vulnerabilities in publicly exposed systems, and tracking malicious actors and their methodologies. We're like a digital early warning system for the entire global digital landscape. When your EHR system, Project Nightingale, was integrated and connected to the internet, its public-facing APIs, like any online service, became visible on the threat landscape we monitor. Our algorithms flagged suspicious activity, not because I personally targeted Rodriguez Healthcare Group, but because your systems exhibited patterns consistent with a known advanced persistent threat group's methodology. We then drilled down, correlating the data, confirming the infiltration. It was an automated detection, not a targeted attack from me. Your own systems broadcasted their vulnerability to the world, and we simply listened. I watched their faces as I spoke, seeing their struggle to grasp the alien concepts of my world, the invisible threats lurking in the digital ether, the cold, hard logic of data. My father still looked utterly disbelieving, Julian was fuming silently, his jaw clenched, and Sophia seemed to be processing the technical jargon, a dawning comprehension mixed with outrage in her eyes. The depth of their ignorance and the catastrophic consequence of that ignorance hung heavy in the air, a stark and undeniable testament to their long-standing dismissal of my expertise, their unwavering belief in their own perceived invulnerability. The boardroom, now devoid of any pretense of formality, had become a chamber of raw shock. The visualization of their compromised network pulsed on the large screen, a stark, undeniable testament to the digital catastrophe unfolding beneath their very noses. My family stared at it, each of them grappling with the magnitude of the information Chloe had delivered and the unsettling realization that it had come from me, the one they'd always dismissed. The initial anger and accusations had evaporated, replaced by a chilling silence, punctuated only by their ragged breathing. My father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, who had once exuded an aura of unshakable authority, had slumped back in his chair, his usual commanding posture replaced by a defeated slump, his face etched with a mixture of bewilderment and profound despair. Patient data, millions of records, he murmured, his voice hollow, a mere whisper, like a man whose world had just been irrevocably shattered, his life's work crumbling before his eyes. Julian, who moments ago had been bristling with indignant fury at my theatrics, now looked utterly lost. His surgeon's hands, accustomed to precise control and the confident wielding of a scalpel, now gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white, trembling slightly. Sophia, ever the one to demand answers and practical solutions, finally broke the silence, her voice tight with a desperate edge, a tremor of fear she couldn't quite conceal. Alina, she pressed, her gaze fixed on the horrifying digital map. Exactly how bad is this? What does administrative privileges truly mean in this context? And what are the real implications for the Rodriguez Healthcare Group? Be brutally honest. Administrative privileges, I explained, my voice devoid of emotion, purely clinical now, a steady stream of information in the swirling chaos, means they control the system completely. They can view, modify, delete any patient record, any entry in the database. They can insert false data, change diagnoses, alter billing information, even subtly manipulate prescription orders. Imagine the chaos, the medical malpractice lawsuits that would erupt, the complete erosion of public and patient trust. They have access to everything: names, addresses, social security numbers, insurance details, sensitive medical histories, confidential mental health records, even genetic test results. This isn't just a data leak, it's a fundamental compromise of patient privacy on an unimaginable scale and a direct, insidious threat to the integrity of the medical records themselves. The very foundation of your practice relies on trust and accurate data. This attack poisons that well at its source. And the financial implications? I paused, letting the devastating weight of the words hang in the air, allowing them to truly sink in. The fines for HIPAA violations alone could be astronomical, potentially bankrupting the group on their own. Then there are class action lawsuits from millions of patients whose data has been stolen, whose lives have been exposed. The reputational damage could take decades, if ever, to recover from. Not to mention the direct cost of remediation, which will be immense. Notifying all affected patients, providing credit monitoring, and rebuilding a secure infrastructure from the ground up, likely from scratch. This, Papa, is a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe, potentially ending the Rodriguez healthcare group as we know it, erasing generations of work and dedication. My mother, Isabel, let out a soft, choked whimper, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with unadulterated terror. A multi-billion-dollar catastrophe? Alina, you must be exaggerating. This is our legacy, Miguel's life's work, our family's name. She looked at my father, who stared blankly ahead, seemingly paralyzed by the enormity of my words, the weight of a ruined empire crushing him. Julian finally found his voice, a raw, desperate whisper, a chilling reflection of his fear. But our IT department, they assured us, we spent millions on security upgrades for Project Nightingale. They said it was state of the art, and they were wrong, I stated plainly, without malice, just simple, unvarnished fact. Or they were using outdated methodologies, relying on passive defenses, or they simply weren't equipped to detect this level of sophistication. This wasn't a phishing email or a simple malware infection. This was an advanced, persistent threat, likely a state-sponsored group with significant resources and highly advanced techniques targeting a specific zero-day vulnerability in your new system. Traditional antivirus software, firewalls, and basic intrusion detection systems aren't enough when you're facing that kind of adversary. You need predictive intelligence, behavioral analytics, proactive threat hunting, precisely what Sentinel AI specializes in. We see the subtle digital footsteps, the patterns of attack before they fully materialize, the whispers of compromise before they become screams. I pulled out my tablet, wirelessly connecting it to the boardroom's large screen, overriding my father's previous, now utterly irrelevant financial charts. On the screen, a complex, real-time visualization of the Rodriguez Healthcare Group network appeared, overlaid with glowing red lines indicating active intrusions, illicit data flow, and the precise location of the backdoors Chloe had mentioned. It was a terrifying, almost beautiful tapestry of compromise, a dynamic digital map of their impending downfall. This, I explained, tracing a finger across the glowing lines, my voice steady, is a visual representation of the data exfiltration. Each of these lines represents a stream of highly sensitive patient data leaving your network and being routed to servers in Eastern Europe and Asia. These smaller, almost invisible points, I zoomed in on a cluster of green dots, are the backdoors. They're hidden, dormant, waiting for the attackers to return at will. They can also be triggered to wipe your entire database if you try to shut them out without proper remediation or even deploy ransomware. They own your network, Papa. They are inside, watching, waiting. My family watched, mesmerized and horrified, as the abstract concept of a data breach became a living, breathing, glowing nightmare on the screen before them. The cold, hard data painted a picture far more devastating than any theoretical discussion could convey. This wasn't about a hobby anymore. It was about the imminent, undeniable collapse of everything they had built, everything they cherished, everything they were. And they were utterly, terrifyingly helpless without me. The air in the boardroom was thick with a tension that felt almost palpable, a suffocating mix of disbelief, anger, and a profound, dawning understanding. My family sat stunned, each grappling with the magnitude of the information Chloe had delivered and the unsettling realization that it had come from me, the one they'd always dismissed. The initial anger and accusations had evaporated, replaced by a chilling silence, punctuated only by their ragged breathing. My father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, who had once exuded an aura of unshakable authority, had slumped back in his chair, his usual commanding posture replaced by a defeated slump, his face etched with a mixture of bewilderment and profound despair. Patient data, millions of records, he murmured, his voice hollow, a mere whisper, like a man whose world had just been irrevocably shattered, his life's work crumbling before his eyes. Julian, who moments ago had been bristling with indignant fury at my theatrics, now looked utterly lost. His surgeon's hands, accustomed to precise control and the confident wielding of a scalpel, now gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white, trembling slightly. Sophia, ever the one to demand answers and practical solutions, finally broke the silence, her voice tight with a desperate edge, a tremor of fear she couldn't quite conceal. Alina, she pressed, her gaze fixed on the horrifying digital map. Exactly how bad is this? What does administrative privileges truly mean in this context? And what are the real implications for the Rodriguez healthcare group? Be brutally honest. Administrative privileges, I explained, my voice devoid of emotion, purely clinical now, a steady stream of information in the swirling chaos, means they control the system completely. They can view, modify, delete any patient record, any entry in the database. They can insert false data, change diagnoses, alter billing information, even subtly manipulate prescription orders. Imagine the chaos, the medical malpractice lawsuits that would erupt, the complete erosion of public and patient trust. They have access to everything: names, addresses, social security numbers, insurance details, sensitive medical histories, confidential mental health records, even genetic test results. This isn't just a data leak, it's a fundamental compromise of patient privacy on an unimaginable scale and a direct, insidious threat to the integrity of the medical records themselves. The very foundation of your practice relies on trust and accurate data. This attack poisons that well at its source. And the financial implications? I paused, letting the devastating weight of the words hang in the air, allowing them to truly sink in. The fines for HIPAA violations alone could be astronomical, potentially bankrupting the group on their own. Then there are class action lawsuits from millions of patients whose data has been stolen, whose lives have been exposed. The reputational damage could take decades, if ever, to recover from. Not to mention the direct cost of remediation, which will be immense. Notifying all affected patients, providing credit monitoring, and rebuilding a secure infrastructure from the ground up, likely from scratch. This, Papa, is a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe, potentially ending the Rodriguez healthcare group as we know it, erasing generations of work and dedication. My mother Isabel let out a soft, choked whimper, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with unadulterated terror. A multi-billion-dollar catastrophe? Alina, you must be exaggerating. This is our legacy, Miguel's life's work, our family's name. She looked at my father, who stared blankly ahead, seemingly paralyzed by the enormity of my words, the weight of a ruined empire crushing him. Julian finally found his voice, a raw, desperate whisper, a chilling reflection of his fear. But our IT department, they assured us, we spent millions on security upgrades for Project Nightingale. They said it was state of the art, and they were wrong, I stated plainly, without malice, just simple, unvarnished fact. Or they were using outdated methodologies, relying on passive defenses, or they simply weren't equipped to detect this level of sophistication. This wasn't a phishing email or a simple malware infection. This was an advanced, persistent threat, likely a state-sponsored group with significant resources and highly advanced techniques targeting a specific zero-day vulnerability in your new system. Traditional antivirus software, firewalls, and basic intrusion detection systems aren't enough when you're facing that kind of adversary. You need predictive intelligence, behavioral analytics, proactive threat hunting, precisely what Sentinel AI specializes in. We see the subtle digital footsteps, the patterns of attack before they fully materialize, the whispers of compromise before they become screams. I pulled out my tablet, wirelessly connecting it to the boardroom's large screen, overriding my father's previous, now utterly irrelevant financial charts. On the screen, a complex, real-time visualization of the Rodriguez Healthcare Group network appeared, overlaid with glowing red lines indicating active intrusions, illicit data flow, and the precise location of the backdoors Chloe had mentioned. It was a terrifying, almost beautiful tapestry of compromise, a dynamic digital map of their impending downfall. This, I explained, tracing a finger across the glowing lines, my voice steady, is a visual representation of the data exfiltration. Each of these lines represents a stream of highly sensitive patient data leaving your network and being routed to servers in Eastern Europe and Asia. These smaller, almost invisible points, I zoomed in on a cluster of green dots, are the backdoors. They're hidden, dormant, waiting for the attackers to return at will. They can also be triggered to wipe your entire database if you try to shut them out without proper remediation or even deploy ransomware. They own your network, Papa. They are inside, watching, waiting. My family watched, mesmerized and horrified, as the abstract concept of a data breach became a living, breathing, glowing nightmare on the screen before them. The cold, hard data painted a picture far more devastating than any theoretical discussion could convey. This wasn't about a hobby anymore. It was about the imminent, undeniable collapse of everything they had built, everything they cherished, everything they were. And they were utterly, terrifyingly helpless without me. The silence that followed my terms stretched, thick with unspoken thoughts and the crushing weight of a decision that would redefine not just the future of Rodriguez Healthcare Group, but the very dynamics of our family. My father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, was the first to break, his gaze finally shifting from the horrifying network visualization to me. He sighed, a profound, weary sound that seemed to carry the accumulated weight of decades of pride, of unyielding authority. Alina, he began, his voice devoid of its usual booming power, tinged instead with a reluctant, almost imperceptible humility. You drive a hard bargain, this is. This is an unprecedented situation. He paused, looking at Julian and Sophia, who both remained silent, their expressions unreadable but clearly burdened by the sheer scale of the crisis, the undeniable proof of their vulnerability. But we don't have a choice, do we, Mija? It wasn't a question, but a bitter, agonizing acknowledgement of their desperate situation, a concession wrenched from the depths of his long-held convictions. No, Papa, not if you want to mitigate the damage and salvage the legacy you've built. I confirmed, my voice maintaining its professional neutrality, devoid of triumph, only a quiet resolve. This isn't about me driving a hard bargain, it's about recognizing the reality of the situation. Digital security is no longer an afterthought. It's as fundamental to your operations as a clean operating room or a sterile needle. And true expertise, regardless of where it comes from, demands respect, collaboration, and integration into the core strategy. My father finally nodded, a slow, almost imperceptible movement, as if the very act required immense effort. All right, Alina, he conceded, the words sounding foreign on his tongue. We agree, your terms, we need Sentinel AI, we need you. Julian, still looking somewhat shell-shocked, managed a strained, barely perceptible nod of assent, his face pale. Sophia, ever the pragmatist, was already pulling out her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen. What's the immediate action plan, Alina? What do we do first? Give us the marching orders. Her directness, her willingness to cede control was a small but significant victory, a subtle shift from ingrained dismissal to proactive, desperate engagement. First, I instructed, already typing commands into my tablet, bringing up Sentinel AI's deployment protocols. I need full, unrestricted, and immediate access to all your network infrastructure, including server rooms, IT personnel, and all historical server logs. Chloe and my advanced response team will be on site within the hour, armed with our proprietary forensic tools. We'll deploy Sentinel AI's full suite of capabilities to conduct a deeper, real-time forensic analysis, identify every single backdoor the attackers left, and map the full, comprehensive extent of the data exfiltration. Simultaneously, you will immediately initiate a containment protocol, disconnect any non-essential systems from the network, secure physical access points, and prepare for a potential full network shutdown if containment proves too difficult or if we detect any further active malicious activity. This will be disruptive, extremely so, for hospital operations, but it is absolutely necessary to prevent further compromise. My father grimaced, the thought of disrupting his meticulously run hospitals clearly causing him physical pain, but he nodded. Do it, he commanded, his voice firm, a hint of his old decisiveness returning, albeit now directed by my expertise, a humbling shift in power. Beyond the immediate technical actions, I continued, pressing on while I had their full, desperate attention. My terms are clear. For the past decade, you've dismissed my career, patronized my passion, and treated my company as a frivolous hobby. You've held me at arm's length, comparing me to Julian and Sophia, who followed your approved, traditional path. Every time I tried to offer genuine insights into digital vulnerabilities, every time I tried to share my successes, I was met with a polite wave of the hand, a dismissive chuckle, or a swift change of subject. Alina, dear, you worry too much. We're a medical institution, not some tech startup. This is too abstract, too niche. Do you remember those lines, Papa, Julian, Sophia? I watched you invest millions in a system without adequate, independent security vetting, despite my explicit warnings. You relied on outdated IT practices, on assurances that were proven to be utterly false, and now, your entire empire, your patients' trust, your family's legacy, is on the brink of collapse because of it. All of you, at some point, have contributed to this blind spot, this willful ignorance. I looked at each of them in turn, allowing the weight of their past dismissals to settle in the tense, silent room. What I want, I stated, my voice gaining strength, not aggressive but undeniably resolute, is not financial. Sentinel AI is already highly profitable, operating globally with a robust client base. What I want is respect. I want to be acknowledged as an equal, a vital contributor to this family's future, not just a distant relative who does something with computers. I want my expertise in a field that is now undeniably critical to your very survival to be taken seriously, listened to, and acted upon. I want a permanent seat at this table, not as your daughter who dabbles in tech, but as Alina Rodriguez, CEO of Sentinel AI, a strategic partner in all future technological endeavors of the Rodriguez Healthcare Group. This will involve an official long-term contract with Sentinel AI, not as a favor or a temporary fix, but as a critical, ongoing strategic partnership that is deeply integrated into your operational planning. And it will involve a public acknowledgement within the company and, eventually, to relevant stakeholders of Sentinel AI's crucial role in mitigating this crisis and fortifying your future. No more vague dismissals, no more polite ignorance. We will work together as equals or not at all. The choice is stark, but it is yours. My father ran a hand over his face, a gesture of deep weariness and palpable internal struggle. You would let millions of patients suffer. If we don't agree to these terms of respect, this sounds like emotional blackmail, Alina, he asked, a hint of outrage returning to his voice, though it was quickly overshadowed by the profound fear in his eyes. No, Papa, I clarified, my voice softening slightly, though my resolve remained steel-hard. I wouldn't let anyone suffer. I am offering you the solution, the only viable solution from the only entity capable of providing it. But I am no longer going to beg for your recognition, for your attention, or for your understanding. Sentinel AI is a professional entity. If the terms of engagement aren't mutually respectful and strategically sound, if there isn't a fundamental shift in how you view and value my expertise, then I, as a professional, will withdraw my company's services. The choice is yours. You can continue to dismiss me and face the full, unmitigated fallout of this breach alone, or you can accept my terms, collaborate as equals, and we can begin the arduous, painful, but ultimately necessary process of rebuilding. The silence stretched, pregnant with their decision. The digital map of their compromised network continued to glow ominously on the screen, a silent, powerful arbiter of their fate. They looked at each other, then back at me, the years of dismissiveness slowly giving way to a dawning, desperate realization of their true predicament, of the power that now lay in the hands of their dismissed daughter. The power of expertise finally acknowledged. The remediation of the Rodriguez Healthcare Group cyber attack was a monumental undertaking, an odyssey that spanned nearly 6 grueling months. My team at Sentinel AI, a dedicated force of ethical hackers, forensic analysts, and network architects, worked tirelessly, meticulously dismantling the sophisticated intrusions, patching vulnerabilities in the deepest layers of their infrastructure, and rebuilding their digital network from the ground up, stronger and more resilient than ever before. The immediate crisis was contained. Further data exfiltration ceased within days of our intervention, and the insidious backdoors left by the attackers were sealed, then meticulously purged. However, the true, lasting legacy of the attack wasn't just the technical fix. It was the profound, undeniable shift in the family dynamic, a transformation far more impactful and meaningful than any line of code I had ever written. My father, Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, once the unwavering patriarch who dismissed my career as a mere hobby, became, to my quiet astonishment, my most ardent, if still somewhat bewildered, supporter. He made unscheduled visits to my sleek, modern downtown offices, no longer to lecture or to condescend, but to observe, to ask genuine questions about my team, my cutting edge technologies, and the intricate, ever evolving complexities of cybersecurity. I watched him, a respected surgeon whose hands had once deftly navigated the delicate intricacies of the human heart, now grapple with foreign concepts like zero-day exploits, threat intelligence, and behavioral analytics, his brow furrowed in concentration. For the very first time, I saw not condescension, but genuine curiosity and a dawning, deeply personal appreciation for a field he once deemed utterly irrelevant, a trivial pursuit compared to the gravitas of saving lives in an operating room. He even started reading industry reports, occasionally surprising me with a pointed question about a new threat vector. Julian, my older brother, the brilliant neurosurgeon who epitomized traditional success and once looked at me with polite pity, found himself consulting me on the burgeoning field of medical device security, asking for Sentinel AI's insights on protecting networked surgical instruments and diagnostic equipment. He'd bring up articles about the latest cybersecurity threats in the news, eager to discuss them with me, to understand the implications for his own practice. It was a stark contrast to the days when he would simply nod and change the subject if I mentioned my work. Sophia, ever the pragmatist and a remarkably quick learner, adapted the fastest. She became Sentinel AI's strongest, most vocal advocate within the Rodriguez Healthcare Group, ensuring that our newly implemented security protocols were rigorously followed and pushing for continuous investment in advanced threat protection. She even referred new clients to Sentinel AI, recognizing the urgent, pervasive need for our services across the broader healthcare industry, understanding its critical role in patient safety and financial stability. My mother, Isabel, initially reeling from the shock and the potential scandal, eventually expressed her quiet, yet profound, pride. She would often bring up my work in conversations with her social circles, highlighting Sentinel AI's innovative solutions, a stark and welcome contrast to her previous evasiveness or the quick changes of subject whenever my career came up. The change wasn't instantaneous, nor was it always smooth. There were moments of lingering awkwardness, vestiges of old habits of thought that occasionally resurfaced. But the foundation of dismissal had been irrevocably shattered, replaced by a foundation of shared understanding and, finally, earned undeniable respect. The true public validation, the moment that cemented my place not just within the family but within their professional sphere, came 6 months after the initial breach was fully contained. At a major industry conference for healthcare executives, where the Rodriguez Healthcare Group presented their comprehensive post-breach recovery plan, my father stood on stage, a commanding figure. He didn't just thank Sentinel AI, he introduced me, Alina Rodriguez, CEO, not as my daughter, but as the visionary leader whose expertise not only saved our organization from ruin, but fundamentally reshaped our understanding of modern healthcare security. She is a pioneer in a field we can no longer afford to ignore. He spoke not of my hobby or unconventional pursuits, but of my unparalleled predictive analytics and innovative threat intelligence. He acknowledged his own prior short-sightedness with a humility that surprised many in the room. Success has many forms, he stated, his voice resonating with newfound conviction, and sometimes the greatest insights, the most crucial solutions, come from paths we initially fail to appreciate. My daughter Alina has taught us that the true strength of a legacy lies not just in what we build, but in our willingness to adapt, to listen, and to embrace the unseen challenges of the future. She is our future and the future of secure healthcare. It was a humbling, powerful moment, a public acknowledgement that resonated far beyond the confines of the conference hall, a public validation of everything I had fought for. A year later, with the Rodriguez Healthcare Group not only recovered but thriving, its now fortified digital infrastructure becoming a model for others in the industry. I established the Alina Rodriguez Tech for Health initiative. This scholarship program was dedicated to supporting young, aspiring technologists focused specifically on cybersecurity solutions for the healthcare industry, ensuring that future generations wouldn't face the same blind spots my family had. At the inaugural event, surrounded by my family who now looked at me with genuine pride, not just at my accomplishments, but at who I was, I reflected on the long, arduous journey. My father, standing beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder in a gesture of paternal pride, asked quietly, "Was it worth it, Alina? All those years of being misunderstood, of battling for recognition, for your path to be seen?" I smiled, looking out at the hopeful, eager faces of the scholarship recipients, knowing that their path might be a little easier now. I built Sentinel AI for myself, Papa, driven by my passion and my unwavering belief in its mission. I didn't seek your approval to achieve success. Success was the byproduct of my dedication. But having your respect, your understanding now, it doesn't diminish the achievement. It just makes the success sweeter, more complete. He nodded slowly, a profound understanding in his eyes. I wish I'd seen it sooner. I wish we all had. So did I admitted silently, a quiet ache for the lost years of connection. But we were seeing clearly now, that's what truly mattered. The path to recognition had been longer and harder than it should have been. It had been lonely at times, frustrating, and filled with moments of self-doubt. But the destination, true family acceptance, mutual understanding, and a shared purpose, was, in the end, worth every step of the journey. Not because I needed their validation to be successful, for my success was already my own, but because even the most self-sufficient among us desire connection, understanding, and respect from those who should know us best, from the family we belong to. Success, I'd learned, wasn't just about financial achievements or professional accolades. It was about creating a life that aligned with your own values and vision, even when others couldn't yet see its worth. It was about staying true to your path, honing your skills, and believing in your unique contribution, even when the road grew lonely and the voices of doubt were loudest. Sometimes, the most successful people are the ones no one recognizes until they've already won the game everyone else is still playing, their quiet efforts culminating in an undeniable triumph. Have you ever been underestimated by those closest to you, only for your unique skills to become their unexpected salvation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if Alina's journey touched something in you, make sure to subscribe and share this story with someone who needs to hear that true strength often lies in the skills others undervalue, and validation truly matters when it comes from within. Thank you for listening to this story. And remember, the greatest victories are often won not by seeking approval, but by mastering your own unique path.